Hi guys! For those who don't know me, my name's Jasmine. I'm a qualified counsellor, an all-round awesome person, and I'm going through the next big stage of my life, which is weight loss surgery. And today I mark 3 weeks. Gosh, these weeks are going by quickly. I am now on the puree stage. Things seem to be tracking well, but why should I blabber on about it? Here's my statistics. So, without further ado, might I just say, this week, the puree stage is the hardest yet. And the reason why I say that is because it's as if, yes, you're allowed to have foods, but you're not really allowed to have foods because you're not allowed to chew. It's like you're so close to actual food, but so far away. And that, I think, really got to me this week. This week for me has not been the best, but sometimes it's reminding yourself that, yeah, it is just 2 weeks. 2 weeks of grueling purees, and you can move on to the next thing. So I'm kind of getting excited for that, and that's motivating me to push through this grueling stage. So what does one do when you're going through one of these tumultuous weeks where you're not losing a lot, your mind's playing tricks on you, your body starts asking you to get some chocolate? I use what is called the ABCDE method. It's something they use quite a bit in cognitive behaviour therapy, and I'll see if I can share this briefly. So the A is the external trigger. So this could be something that happens out in the wider world. You know, you might be watching something on TV, let's say a food ad, and that triggers something in you. The B in this method is the thoughts that go through your head. So if you're watching this food advertisement, you might be thinking, oh, I could go for one of those right now. But I can't because I'm not in the right state to be eating that. And it's so high in calories and all these things are wrong with it. But I just want it. They're the thoughts that could be going through your head. C in this is the emotion that comes out. So in response to your thoughts, you could be feeling upset because you can't have this food that's advertised on TV because you're not at, you know, the soft food or the open diet yet. You could be feeling despair because you've wanted things like that for a while and you know you can't have anything like it yet. Or you could be feeling angry at yourself because ultimately this surgery was your choice. So that brings me to the D in the ABCDE method. The D is your reaction. You know, you might take part in some self-loathing. You might start hating yourself, like I just mentioned. You could go to the fridge and have a chocolate mousse when you just had lunch. There's so many reactions you could have to that one trigger. And that's because of those thoughts that made you have the emotion, which has then solicited a response. A, B, C, D. E is a little bit different. E is something that you might do a little while after the trigger, where you start to, I guess, analyze what you thought at the time and think of other ways to, I guess, turn it around for yourself. One thing I thought through doing this ABCDE method is, again, using that motivator. It's only 2 weeks. Take it one day at a time. Take it one meal at a time if you have to. What's more is that, yes, you're on the puree stage, but your diet doesn't have to only consist of purees. So I found, come dinner time, after that TV ad, I thought, no, I'm not going to go to the purees because that's just going to remind me that I can't have this thing. So I'm going to have myself a cup of soup instead. It's a brief outline of that ABCDE method. I'm going to put another link in the description with a video from a psychologist who explains it in a bit more depth. But anybody who's going through that terrible period where you start questioning yourself and you start feeling really tempted to have something you really shouldn't, or you just realize that your mind starts playing games with you. Seriously, that ABCDE is really useful. So check it out if you can. The other thing I really took on this week was a continuation, I guess, from last week. Last week I mentioned that I allowed myself some extended time at first to have, I believe it was custard. And so to make sure that I ate in that 20-30 minute time frame, I set an alarm on my phone. Well, I tried that for this week. It didn't work for me. Not as well as I had hoped, because I had in my mind, okay, Jazz, you've got only 20 minutes to have this thing of pureed cauliflower and basically eat as much as you can in that 20 minutes. And this wasn't conscious. This wasn't something I was actively saying to myself. This was something that subconsciously happened, which made me eat too fast and too much, and resulted in me feeling quite nauseous. So what I decided to do instead was scrap the timer and eat mindfully. Now I know what some of you might be saying, oh, this mindfulness stuff again. When are we going to hear the end of it? I thought we've had enough of hearing all this BS about mindfulness. And I hear you, okay? Mindfulness has been used a hell of a lot. Eating mindfully? Not as much. But I find it helps in slowing down the eating and easily recognizing when you're full. So how does one eat mindfully? Think of it as like you're analyzing your food. Before you put anything in your mouth, try smelling it and really analyzing, I guess, those scents that come up. Do you detect a bit of rosemary in that gravy? Really look at what's there on your plate. The differences in the texture of the potato and the gravy just by looking at it. If you're someone who likes to mix it all together before eating it, as you're mixing it, really look at those swirls that you're making and compare it to making art and how you might mix two colours together to get a new colour. And then as you're putting a small spoonful of whatever it is you've got in your mouth, explore that texture further. Can you distinct where the potato is and where the gravy is? Really get into what you're eating. And then give yourself a moment or two and check in with particularly your stomach as to how it's coping with it. That in itself slows down the whole eating process. I started doing that instead. I found I didn't eat as much, but I didn't feel hungry all the time. I was definitely satiated. I felt more at peace with this idea of going through the puree stage for 2 weeks. And I found myself liking foods a bit more. Before the operation, I hated soup. Now I'll happily drink a cup of soup. I feel like that eating mindfully, along with the ABCDE method, have really helped me get through this week, which has otherwise been terrible. But now I'm at the end of the week and I'm feeling at peace with what's happening. I don't regret having the sleep in the slightest anymore. And I still feel that motivation to keep going with the next 2 weeks. I'm going to call it a day because I'm really feeling the heat from outside. So until next time, in case you haven't heard from anyone else today, you're awesome. And I'll see you next time.